Hello everyone, and welcome to the portion of your packet where we will be doing a science experiment for this week. So in your packets, you should have received a sheet that looks like this. That's going to be our science experiment for this week. We are going to be melting our snowmen and in these cups that we have placed in front of us. First, what we want to do, before we start anything on a project, we want to make our hypothesis. That is a word used in the science world that means a great big guess. So we're going to take a big guess to see which of our snowmen in the cups will both melt the fastest and which of the snowmen will melt first, fastest, and what order do you think they'll melt? Would it be by the temperature or by the marshmallow size? So then you want to, once you finish that, you want to put your why you think that this is going to happen. And the research part, you can either look prior to doing the project or you can do it afterwards. It all depends on you. And down below is when we're going to be doing our portion today. So in front of me, I have my 3 cups of hot cocoa. This cup is hot, very hot cocoa. This one is warm, and this is my cold one. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our little snowmen first. So here I have my little snowman. I'm going to drop each one into the cups, and I'm going to see which one melts the fastest. So here I'm going to put my small snowman in my cold cup, a small snowman in my warm cup, and a small snowman in my hot cup. And then you want to sit and wait to see which one will melt the fastest. Because I'm doing a video, I am going to try and speed up the process a little bit, but it looks like I won't even have to because my hot one, if you can see on the camera, nope, hold on. There he is. As you can see, he's already starting to melt very quickly. Here is my snowman in my cold cup comparatively. He's sitting here almost completely untouched. He's a little bit smaller, but not by much. And in this one, he's melting very, very quickly. The one in the middle, surprisingly, my warm cup, he's not melting at all. He's still pretty solid. It's not melting much. But in my cold one, he's melted actually a little bit, which is interesting. That was not something I expected. But it looks like in my hot one, yep, he's melting a little bit. Now, this experiment can go a lot of different ways. Because the thing is, with your experiments, there are a lot of factors that play a part in how it will turn out. So in this instance, the marshmallows that I'm using are unfortunately a little bit stale. That's all Miss Carmela had on her. If you're using fresh marshmallows, maybe you'll have a different result. It all depends on various factors. If you use really, really boiling hot water or really cold, icy water, that might change the outlook of your project and your experiment. So just keep those in mind when you're working at home with your project. So it looks like my hot one melted a lot. So I'm going to write on my piece of paper, because it says to number the marshmallows in order of how they melt. And since I'm starting with the mini ones, the small ones, I'm going to say that my hot one melted first, and then my cold one surprisingly melted second, and my warm one melted third. So I'm going to leave those in the cup because I wrote down my results, but they might change, who knows. And now I'm going to take my 3 large ones. Now you can wait and see which of the small ones melts all the way. You can speed up the process by stirring them in the cup so they're all melted. And then you can move on to the jumbo ones, or vice versa. So now we're going to do the jumbo ones. Now, since these are much bigger than the small ones, my hypothesis was that these were going to melt slower in the liquids of the 3 different cups. But I might be super, super surprised. So my first one is going to go in my cold cup, my second one in the warm cup, and finally my third one in the hot cup. Now, you can probably see these a tiny bit better than you could with the small ones in my cups. But I'm starting to really notice that the one in the warm cup is actually melting much faster. He's losing his shape. If that's how that's how you can tell with the marshmallows which ones are actually melting based on the look of the marshmallows before and after you put them in the liquid. So, as you can see, in my cold one, the marshmallow still retains its shape, still in perfectly cylindrical shape. In my warm cup, as you can see, it actually started melting a little bit. The top portion was a little bit still in shape, and the bottom portion, see if I can showcase it a little bit here. It's very hard to tell on the video, but if you see here, there is a portion of it that slowly melted away. And as I was talking about that one, I went over and looked at my warm one, and it has like lots of little bubbles all around it. So if I were to lift this baby up, it almost is half gone. So I'm going to do this trick, because Miss Carmela likes her marshmallows to be melted completely in her cocoa. And so what I do when it sits on top is I poke it down into the water to see if I can get more of the marshmallow to melt. Now, as I'm doing this with each of my marshmallows and covering them all with the water, we can clearly see not only is our marshmallow covered in our hot cocoa, but it's not really melting very much. In the warm, it started melting a lot more. You can probably see that on camera. It's very melty now. And in our hot one, it is already so tiny. That one's really, really getting melted pretty quickly. So if I were to go over and look at my sheet for the big marshmallows, I would say that the marshmallow that melted the first would be the hot cocoa one. Then the warm one would be number 2, and the cold one would be number 3, because even though the cold water isn't melting the marshmallow as quickly, it still is, in a way, melting it because it's not retaining the same shape it originally had. So as you can see here, for comparison, this is the size of marshmallows that we were using. And if I put this marshmallow up against the other marshmallows, you can see that this one clearly looks very similar to the one that we have in the cold water. If I pick up the one in the warm water, you can see that this marshmallow is much bigger than the marshmallow in the warm water. And if I pick up the hot one, compared to the regular size marshmallow, you can see, comparison-wise, that the marshmallow in the hot water is much, much smaller than the marshmallow that I have originally. So I let them sit for a little bit, and I watched very closely each of my marshmallows, and I noticed something, that as I'm sitting here watching, my warm water is starting to get really cold, and that may affect how fast my marshmallow was melting. It was melting faster when it was really warm, but now that it's starting to cool down, the marshmallow is not melting as quickly. And as the same goes for my hot cocoa. Now, I made sure this was really, really hot, so it was very hard to hold because it was super hot in my hands. But now I can put my hands around it. It's a nice warm, still very hot, but it's a nice warm kind of feel. And that may also affect how fast my snowman, my marshmallow, will be melting. So always keep in mind all these variables, all these little pieces that affect your experiment when you're doing them. So that's it for now today, guys. I hope you enjoy this experiment. Let us know in the comments on our Facebook page and on Twitter if you liked it. And make sure to register for the next packet. Bye now.